Hey guys, Shawn Ziem, the Connection Machine, aka the Insurance Doctor, and the whole Webtalk Legends Podcast. This is number 57. We started this last January, and it's something that I love doing because I want to provide as much value as possible from the guests that I bring on. Because we're going to hear and listen to everybody. We'll talk about their business what they got into now, learn their tribulations. And you're going to see a cameo as far as seeing Alexander. My new son will probably make an appearance. Very loves. But if you, just housekeeping, if you're tuning in live, please hashtag live in the comments. Where are you watching from? Drop that in the comments. Any questions you might have. And if you want to use this as a networking, drop your website. I want to help as many people as possible. Let me bring Lombardi. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Shawn?
I'm doing fantastic.
My other assistant is in the background crying as well. So hopefully my father will be able to keep him from crying too much. But
we'll see how we pull it off. Let me bring my little guy up here real quick. Here, man. Ever since I've been on the phone, he likes to say hello to everyone.
Oh, of course. They have a bad habit of doing that. As soon as I get on the phone call with clients, they always want to chime in.
They always want to chime in and see what's up. So there's Alexander. He's 5 months.
Little guy.
Definitely. Him. And I appreciate you coming on. And I would love for you to know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have like a long, crazy backstory. I actually come from very humble beginnings. I was an automotive guy since I was a teenager. Growing up, my best friend's dad growing up was a Toyota mechanic for Ardmore Toyota. And, as a teenager, he just started kind of teaching us the basics. And it was just another way for us to hang out. And I always just enjoyed it because, his rule, Nick, his rule was we can't work on cars unless we have the tunes playing. And I love that. So I did that, and I went to Votech in high school. And then, sophomore in high school, I pretty much knew that I wanted to enter the automotive field, which, how many people in the sophomore year of high school had any idea what they were going to want to do? So that was easy. I went to tech school in Exton for a couple of years, and very quickly graduated and entered the workforce. I did heavy truck for about 6 months. I was working on dump trucks, and I absolutely hated it. So, luckily I came out of school and I was already certified to work for Ford as a warranty certified technician. Give me 1 second. Let me grab him, Shawn.
We are being real, guys, talking to people that are just like you and I. We multitask. Look, what's going on? We're bringing everyone together. We're being mentors to our kids. That's a powerful thing.
This is Anthony, right?
Hey, Anthony, what's going on?
The baby?
How's it going?
So I did that for a handful of years. I worked up to being a service writer, and I ran a shop in Westchester for a couple of years. It was a retail automotive shop. And, that was really when I got my experience dealing with customers. And I think that really helped because, no one is ever happy when they have an issue with their car. So I was always kind of catching them when they were already at their worst, so that kind of, I think, really taught me to just come from an area of, providing value. You automatically you're already mad. No one wants to have car problems. And God forbid they broke down where they were like mid traffic on their way to work. So they're already mad. And you just have to do whatever you can to try and fix it as quick as you can and maybe make their day, 10% better than it was when it started. I got married. We started having kids, right? And after the first one, I don't know which one. So after the first one, childcare is just so incredibly expensive these days.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, the second one was on their way, and I was like, clearly we're going to have to make a change because I just couldn't justify, spending what it was going to cost to put 2 kids in daycare and working what I was working. So, so I had my wife's aunt actually was a real estate agent at the time, and I'd said, "Hey, have you ever considered selling real estate?" And I said, "No." I said, "What do I know about selling houses? I don't know the first thing about real estate." And she said, "Yeah, but you're very easy to talk to, and you're very engaging, and you're a good problem solver." She said, "Maybe you just get it, and you could have it on a part-time basis, and if you do a couple of deals a year, it's supplemental income."
Mm-hmm.
So, I got it and realized very quickly that I was good at it. So I decided that I would dive in both feet. I was fortunate enough that my wife was doing well and that we were able to get by. So I figured I would give it a good shot. And if it didn't work in a year, I could always at least fall back on wrenching. And I still have that, which is great. I always kind of have a fallback lined up. And, I'm happy to say this is my 6th year in it. And I've, exponentially grown my business every year. And I'm, very happy. I've been very blessed to have a lot of great clients and work for a couple of really awesome companies and work with some really great agents. So, I definitely am, not complaining. I'm very lucky.
I want to backtrack. I like how you gave yourself a year and you pushed and made that as a goal. You pushed, you have kids. That's your why. That's why you wake up every single day to push yourself to do that extra call, have that extra meeting, do whatever presentation you have to do to make that happen. And you're doing it for 6 years now. And it's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I really, and this is going to sound so cliche, but it's just the way that I was raised. My dad and my mom both have worked their tails off their entire lives, to do what they do. And, we weren't rich growing up, but we did well. And, we were very lucky. So, he instilled that work ethic in me. And, I love my kids to death. I love my wife, and I know she's got aspirations of moving to Chester County, and she wants a nice big single family home, and that's my goal now. That's our next big thing. We got the house, we got the new cars when we wanted them. We were able to finally get what we wanted. I got my first truck, which is all I wanted. We redid the kitchen over COVID. So we've been very fortunate. I've been very lucky, and not to say that it didn't come without a lot of hard work, but I don't ever take that for granted. Granted. So, biggest thing now is we're just busy, 3 kids. And my oldest is just recently really getting into sports. So now we have the crazy schedule that comes with work and the home life and school and sports. But, I wouldn't change it for anything.
So I want to have the Legends Project, Scott Gerard on this. We have Margarita. What's going on? Scott's from Australia.
Nice.
We have New Zealand popping in here. So definitely appreciate everyone. If you're watching, please have watching. And if you have questions, definitely agree, disagree, drop an emoji, whatever you want. But I definitely agree. You got to make sure that I have 4 kids. I have 3 that are like 4, 2, and 5 months old now. And it's something that is scheduling. How do you schedule your day? How do you keep on track? Are you like a paper kind of guy? You put everything on Post-it notes, or do you have a certain technology you're using right now, Keith?
You know what? I am a very, very strong believer in Google and all the things that Google Suites has to offer. I was never someone who was regimented to a calendar. And even starting out in real estate, I definitely didn't use it as much as I should have, and I suffered because of it. But as I really just got used to using it, now it's my go-to for everything, especially even more so now, because my wife actually just recently started back to work on a remote part-time job. So now she's got her schedule. And then between, different events with the kids, and, knowing which days that she's working, that I know I'm going to be responsible to getting Alexa off to school in the morning. And then, appointments for, listing appointments, if I'm doing showings or if it's, pre-closing walkthroughs or, township inspections. And, I also like Google for that because you have the option of color coding them. So that way, obviously, like if I know if it's a personal event, I'm going to have it in this color. If it's something where, it's a new client, I have it in this color. If it's a township municipal inspection, I use this color and things like that. And it just really helps to regiment your day. One thing that I would say I definitely probably still need to work on is actually scheduling in a specific hour to 2 hours of time blocking specifically for like just making calls and things like that. I'm better off doing that type of thing in the morning. So, but I'll go either working from home or I'm very fortunate to have my buddy Joe, who's got an office in media, which isn't too far from me. And, I'll go there and then just kind of hit the phones and the messages and stuff like that, like when I first get there. But I still think I should be a little bit more regimented to maybe only, advocating maybe an hour to an hour and a half to that, because otherwise, I spend 3 hours and other things that I could be doing, can fall off. And we all know that anything that gets pushed to the end of the day, the 99% chance you're not going to do it.
Yep.
And then you just get that compound effect where, okay, well, we'll move it for tomorrow morning. And then obviously you're pushing other activities off. But yeah, I would say probably only the last 2.5 to 3 years is when I've really gotten on board with very strictly using a calendar.
Being proactive instead of being reactive all the time is you control your business. You have a family. You have calls when you want to make calls or take calls as well. So it's a very important thing to be able to have that scheduling. And I'd like to find out, have you taken a vacation with your kids? How has that experience been?
We have taken a few vacations. And I probably should be documenting those situations because I guarantee you I could probably win money with some of the funny things that we've experienced doing that with multiple kids. Do you want to go get Nikki? Nikki's got the raspberries. Do you want to go get Nikki? No? Okay. We did Disney twice before we actually had him. And that, I always recommend that you wait until your kids are like at least 5, 6, maybe 7 years old. Because when they're young, the amount of stuff that you have to bring with you on what is already a really long, tiring trek, and they don't even remember it, So we had fun, but looking back on it, we're like, okay, like probably wasn't the smartest thing to take like a 2.5-year-old to Disney. We did Outer Banks last year, which was great. We had him. He was still very young at the time, but the kids were older and they remember it now. And then when we actually plan to do it again this year with my extended family, they were much happier because they actually remembered it and remembered how fun of a trip it was. And so that's fun. We're all looking forward to that. I would say to anyone that's planning on taking a vacation that has kids is just try and prepare for as many contingencies as you possibly can. Always have snacks, right? We always need snacks, and extra clothes and things like that. And just know you're going to encounter meltdowns and there's nothing you can do about it, and deal with it and try not to let it ruin the trip as a whole. Right?
No, I agree. That's great. Great tips right there. We did as far as going down the shore. Yeah, you're yelling at them in a different state. Well, it's having fun. It can be stressful. Something people have to understand. Having kids, as you're seeing here, we're still doing this because we know that. Look, you can't have an excuse. Oh, I can't do it. I have kids, right? That's a big.
You just got to make it work. What's really funny is I look back to my first couple of years in real estate. My wife was still working full time, so I was stay-at-home dad, and I look back now, and one year I was able to do about $5 million in business while being a stay-at-home dad with 2 kids and being responsible for all their to school and all that kind of stuff. And I still don't know how I did it. Like I look back and I don't know whether it's just a blur from being busy, crazy, or if I blacked it out from the memories. So I don't know.
Right.
This one's being a bear.
Yeah. Okay.
Here, look. Um, yeah, I mean, there was quite a number of times where I took kids to showings with me, and I always just was very upfront with clients and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to have my kids with me. If this bothers you, I'm sorry, but I'm a stay-at-home dad." But luckily, my kids were always really well behaved and never really got in the way. And you just did what you had to do.
Right. You just do what you got to do, and you set the expectations, and people understand. They know you're trying, you're doing the best that you can, and there's nothing wrong with it. And people are like, "Oh, I can't do workouts. I can't go in front of the time."
Yeah.
It's just an excuse that people put out there. It's something that you got to get over yourself.
I think it's probably easier to work out with kids, to be honest with you. I mean, all you got to do is just let them loose into a big open area and chase them.
And you run. Yeah.
With the best
fantastic. Have an experience with them as well. Now, with personal development, is that something that's big in your world?
I mean, I think it for me personally, yes. I mean, obviously, it's going to be based on the individual. And I think as I've gotten older, I've kind of really realized that and leveraged into it. It's funny because, even though I was only a manager of the shop, they would always tell me, think of this like it's your business. And I think I was just too young. And obviously I had never been in that position before. And I just didn't quite get that. So as I've gotten older and realized that even though, I may work for a broker and may be on a team, at the end of the day, it is my business, and the amount of effort that I put into it is going to directly correlate to what I'm going to get back out of it. And, just I've developed kind of my own style and the way that I like to do things. And luckily I've come across some like-minded people who kind of share that. And it's worked. We've been very fortunate. We've talked to a lot of people about the kind of way we approach real estate and our clients. And, a lot of people are just kind of blown away with the approach that we take. And really, I'm glad, just because obviously it's nice to have something that's specifically you, but also the fact that obviously in real estate, and in your business too, we're a dime a dozen. So if we don't differentiate ourselves from everyone else out there, what's going to convince someone to use them, use us over them?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, always, definitely always learning. I love to read. I don't do it as often as I like to, but I've really been leveraging into Audible lately. And as opposed to listening to the radio or something while driving, I'll put on an audiobook, and even sometimes it's just a fiction story to just be able to disconnect for a while, or, something for the financial services industry, or, investment podcasts, stuff like that. Obviously to be able to help my clients, but also, I want to have my own investment portfolio, soon. So just, learning that kind of thing. So
it's powerful to make yourself better than you were yesterday. That's
right.
What everyone has. Right? Is that Anthony you said?
Yeah, this is Anthony. Right. And my middle son.
What's Anthony's favorite TV show?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, all of my kids were really big into Mickey, and all the different shows that have come with that. But Nicholas is really into Paw Patrol, and recently he's really gotten into Paw Patrol. I would say that's probably his favorite. But we also are all big fans of Bluey. Bluey's hilarious. Like there's just so many jokes that work on all ages, that if I'm going to be forced to watch a cartoon all day, that's the one I'm going to pick, because I find myself still laughing at it myself sometimes.
I think it's designed to have the humor for through it with your kids. And Scott Gerard, I think it's in Australia. It's based in Australia. So it's some that my kids like that too. Bluey's so popular.
Because the first two were so big in the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I could probably recite most of the episodes word for word because I watched them so many times over. So I was happy that he didn't last very long in that phase, and he worked into some other stuff relatively early on. Thank God, right? We've seen enough Mickey, right?
It could be constantly on. It's something that I know. What we thing. We put the TV on. We also do some reading. We do some little work. We do, fun stuff. Are you into any specific music and or food that we can talk about?
I mean, you know what? Music wise, I have a very eclectic taste in music. I grew up with my sister who was very much into like the boy band scene and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and all that stuff. And that was when, my sister's 6 years older than me. So I was so kind of young at that point where, I didn't know any better. I kind of just followed on with her. But then as I became, preteen and teenager, I actually started taking guitar lessons and took them for, I think it was the better side of like 7 or 8 years. So of course with that, opened up into everything rock related, and went pretty much through every decade. I started off and I was like really big into like Zeppelin and all those bands. And then I moved into the 80s and was kind of into the hair metal. And then in the late 80s, got really into like Guns N' Roses and things like that. And then of course moved into the grunge era and the alternative of the 90s. And then, maybe a little bit of alternative in like the 2000 to 2010 range, but pretty much, that was what I was really into for like a really long time. I mean, probably some of my favorite rock bands, Collective Soul is a big one that I'm a big fan of. Queen, I was a huge Queen fan. I remember doing like book reports on Queen when I was in high school, and people then they were like, "Who the hell even is this?" But my dad has got such an eclectic mix that he always was putting different stuff on, and I would just be like, "Well, how did we get from what we were just listening to into this?" And we'd have a half-hour car ride, and in that time frame, we would go from listening to like Luther Vandross and like Mary J. Blige to like Leonard Skinner, and then we'd be off listening to like the Dixie Chicks. Like it was the weirdest thing ever, So he really has opened me up to a lot of stuff as well. But I can sit and listen to a rock song and then go back to rap. I was a big fan of like your 90s rappers, DMX and Biggie and all them. I don't really like any new hip hop or rap at all, really. I think it's all pretty terrible. But then I can listen to a piece of classical music and appreciate that just as much as a rock or a rap song.
Yeah, music is I think to get pumped up before, if you're having one of those mornings, you get started. It's something that I'm into country music now, like for a little while now. And I like the guitar. I like the Keith Urban's out there. And you play the guitar still, or you did it for a couple years?
Yeah, I did. I used to take lessons and was really into it. I was just I would just kind of sit around and be watching TV and play around. But I would say lately, it's unfortunately something that's fallen off. It's something that I definitely would like to get back into. I did sell off one of my better ones at a time when I just needed the money. But I still have a couple. But that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And I agree. There's definitely times where if I'm getting ready for like a listing appointment or something like that, or I know I have a couple of like calls that I have to make that may be on a little bit of a touchy subject. Maybe inspections didn't quite go as well as I was hoping, and I'm going to have to break some rough news. To have like those handful of songs that you can kind of put on to get yourself in the mood, I think is going to be very powerful.
That's good. I appreciate you sharing that. Now, before we even got live, we were talking about different ways of getting business. And a lot of people sometimes work different angles, work in their sphere, work in forced out by owner. What is the focus you're in right now, or with your company and your own personal business development?
So, what has really become my niche and our niche, myself and my buddy Joe, who was on the mortgage side of it, he became my accountability partner. Really helps me realize the bigger picture in different ways and things that I should be focusing on and different things for business that I should be leveraging. And what we started doing was he taught me the power of connecting with financial advisors. So we take a much more longer approach to the transaction. Whereas instead of it just being like, okay, listen, this is what you're pre-approved for. You're looking for this type of home here. That's great. Let's get the ground running and get your house. Taking extra time in the beginning to find out a little bit more personally about, my clients that I'm working with, what their long-term goals are, and then tailoring the transaction to that. Can you go with her, please? So for example, I might have somebody that says they're a young couple, they're engaged, they're going to get married. And okay, great. So are you planning on having children? You are. Great. So how many kids are you planning to have? Oh, you want to have 2 to 3 kids. Okay, great. So that means that the house you're looking for right now probably isn't going to work for that in a couple of years. So are you planning on upgrading to a single family home in the future? Oh yeah, great. Of course. Do you have aspirations of having a shore house, maybe having a house up in the mountains? You do. Great. Or, hey, have you ever thought about having investments? Do you ever plan on having an investment portfolio? And then that way, we can say, all right, listen, your finances are in really good shape. You're pretty good. You have a pretty good amount of liquid cash, but instead of taking all of that and putting that into a full 20% down payment, just so that you can lower your monthly payment, how about we do 10% down? We can still tailor the rest of the terms of your offer to make them highly competitive, and take the other 10%. We can connect you with a couple of the advisors that we work with, one of whom may specialize in second homes, one may specialize in retirement planning, investment planning, and they're going to get you set up with something that's going to actually help you build long-term wealth with your money. And then, kind of being set up, let's just say you're going to have a couple of kids. Great. Maybe you want to discuss life insurance. It's something that you should have. God forbid something's going to happen to you. You want your kids to go to college one day. Well, then maybe we should discuss, setting up with a 529 life policy that, the kids could potentially borrow against for college later on in life. You want to get into investments, but you don't really know what. Great. So let's connect you with someone who can give you an array of options. Maybe we put you into an S&P 500, things like that. And that way, at least you're doing something. You're helping to make money with your money. And then obviously, luckily, most of the people that we've talked to about that, especially on the advisor end, and we're also now pushing that towards CPAs, so that way we can have the CPAs on the front end helping you, and then the financial advisors helping you look toward the back end in the long term. And every conversation that we've ever had with some of these advisors that we've partnered with, we have never had one that hasn't been blown away by the end of it, because it's just not something that everyone is doing,
Right.
Which is great, obviously, because it's good to have a niche. But that's not just the reason that we're doing it. It's great to have something that differentiates you. But I mean, honestly, it's just how we would want to be treated if we were on the other end of it. Because most people just don't know. I remember when I bought my first house, and the whole thing's a blur. I remember looking at houses, and she made recommendations on how we should make the offer to be competitive. We signed, found out that we got the house, and we had inspections, and I didn't know the first thing that I was even looking at. And next thing you know, we were sitting at a table signing papers as they were sliding across the desk, and felt like I was signing my life away.
Yeah.
And that's, we don't want that. We want people to just understand and be educated, and always feel like they have more than enough information to make an educated decision, and to not always be, feel like they're just being led one direction. We offer options, and really just try and give them an experience that they can remember, and they can be thankful for and be grateful for. And obviously, having that experience coupled with the more long-term goals and preparation is going to be great for them to say, oh, hey, listen, Mr. Smith, it's funny that you should say that, because I just did this with Keith, who also then hooked me up with this person who was able to do this for me. And that obviously helps with that whole, referral to referral business.
Like that way. I like the referral to referral. I like having that relationship. I like the value driven that you have. That's all positive business development that should be happening on a consistent basis. And you're not worried about, you don't have that commission breath. It's like you're going to help you take opportunity, recommended them to use somebody else. They'll use that professional for now, and they'll recommend back. That's how it works, and it's something that everyone should be value. I would love to share some tips for social media, 60 to 90 seconds, whatever pops up. How do you help those that are watching get better with social media, video, marketing, what have you?
I wish I had great advice for social media. I mean, I think probably my best tips that I could give just from the experience that I have is I do think that most people are going to have to leverage video marketing, reels, because that seems to be the biggest thing right now. Come here. It's okay. But as far as posting on business, I definitely have learned that when you're going to post, you're better off doing, say you're going to, you plan to post 10 times in a week. You're better off doing like a 60, 40, 70, 30 split where you're going to post more personal stuff, more than business stuff, and you mix them in between because we all know how social media is, and especially the last however many years where, you talk about anything and 5 minutes later you have 6 different ads coming across social media. So if you're constantly always talking about real estate, eventually you're just going to bore everyone or you're going to make them mad, and then no one's going to want to follow you because they're going to just be annoyed. So but if you're putting up, cute pictures of the kids, or my kids did something funny, or here's, my kid playing sports and, hit a home run or whatever, or look at my cute, boy Anthony, he's out there kicking the soccer ball or being funny. And then, hey, listen, have this great listing that just came up, or, hey, listen, here's kind of what's going on with the interest rates. Here's just some helpful information. They're going to be actually have a better chance of watching it and maybe getting through the whole video or the whole reel or whatever it is, or, the whole, whatever it is you post, maybe it's something written, than if it's just constantly you're barraging them with the same thing over and over again. So I think that's big. Definitely cross-posting across multiple platforms is big because not everyone is going to be on every platform, or, most people tend to lean towards one specific one. So making sure that you're, using every one to potentially get out in front of people. What else? There was one other thing I was going to say. Oh, you're miserable tonight, aren't you, pal? Slipped my mind. There was one other thing. I can't remember. It'll come to me. But yeah, I mean, we all know how powerful social media is. So, I mean, if you're not leveraging it for your business, you're potentially missing out. Oh, Google. So I actually am still kind of learning some of the ins and outs of Google. But specifically to real estate, some things have changed on the companies as far as buying leads like Zillow and Realtor.com. So a lot of agents have begun to leverage Google and, Google ads. And from what I hear, Google is significantly better that way. I just got my page synced back up. So I'm going to be, leveraging that and trying to use that as much as possible. So hopefully I'll have as much success as other people are saying, but definitely, that's something that I'm hearing a lot of people are doing and having success with.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's changed as far as the Facebook advertising. Great places to get. Doing the video marketing is key. And man, we made it through, Keith. We made it through, even with kids. This is how we coordinate. We just make it happen. We're very persistent people. I want to thank everyone that's tuning in and anyone that's popping in on the replay. Definitely check out all the things in the description. Please check out the page. Please check out content as well on platforms, and we want to thank Keith for. We hope that you have some day.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me